So I am joined today by two wicked, dope is probably the more on trend word, podcasters and creators, Alex and Ryan. How's it going, guys?
Good,
How you
man.
doing, man? How
Good.
you doing? I'm good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, really good.
Winter is here.
winter is here.
So
But Anton's wearing shorts.
He's wearing
I
shorts,
can't
and
figure it out.
He's from up north.
Oh, yeah, this is
This is summer.
it's easy for him. You know what I mean?
But yeah, so just to give some kind of context to the people listening, can you just give a little, like, 2-3 lines about who you are and what you do?
On
Big
me
yourself
first.
up. Yeah, right, you start.
Who am I? I am Ryan Nile. I've spent most of my time producing music. I'm doing it like this is TV. Like, hey, I've spent most of my time as a music producer. Recently, in the last couple of years or so, moved into podcasting because I've always loved having these conversations in the studio and stuff, and obviously in the background and audio. So just started having these conversations, man. Got 2 podcasts for the creators, which is about the creative process and creative minds, and my new show, the Ryan Nile Show, which is all about intimate conversations with incredible people. So all walks of life. Yeah,
Lovely.
that's me.
Sorry. I'm Alex Reads, podcaster, writer, journalist. So I hosted and produced Mostly Lit. It was a books podcast that we started in around late 2015, early 2016. And I host my own podcast called Time to Talk with Alex Reads. And I just produce and create all these other content. But I speak a lot about mental health, well-being, and just generally like self-improvement. I'm just trying to get on and get through.
Yeah,
It's tough out here.
yeah,
For sure.
But I'm a lifestyle journalist and just general writer.
yeah.
Yeah.
So what I'm interested in, because it's funny, because when I asked both of you separately if you wanted to come on the podcast, and I was like, I kind of want to do like a group one with, like, because this is a kind of theme I'm going with at the minute, like a mini theme within the podcast. And I was like, I got Ryan, I got Alex, and I was like, do you know what? Actually, they're going to make a wicked little pairing because we're all kind of on the same vibe, like making content, like talking about the similar things, interested in similar topics. And, like, what I find really interesting is the creative journey behind that as well. So, like, for me, like, I started off in like 2010 as a blogger, really. Like, I was working in a factory, started a music blog, then went into working in events while still doing the blog, started a club night off the back of the blog.
Okay.
Then went into advertising and then started working in social media because of having the blog. It kind of gave me the experience and the knowledge, and then starting the podcast, and then, making more content for my Instagram and online and YouTube and whatever. So like that kind of creative journey is kind of, it's always been, I've always had something creative to do in my spare time that I've put my kind of passion and energy into. But like, how's that been for you guys? Has it been a similar thing, or has it been like a struggle at times? Is it like, what's that been like?
Well, it's all about like planning and then getting it out is the first thing. Because it's like, for me, I think a whole idea to death. Like I'm just like, I remember when I first started my own podcast, it took me ages. I was up all night, like, with all these crazy ideas. I'm like, I want to do it this way, I want to do it this way. What am I going to call it? What am I going to call it? And like, it has you really, really thinking about everything that you don't really need to think about when you could just go and just start.
Just do it. Yeah.
And that's kind of where I was when I first started.
Yeah, man. For me, like, you're talking about like doing a creative process on the side, like, that's been my life since I can remember. I've always done something creative outside of school, and then going from school into college and starting music production. Like, it's always been the thing that I've done on the side, and that's been really helpful in the sense that at a point when I did do it full time, it added an element of pressure that I hadn't ever experienced, because it's always been my outlet. It's always been something I've done for fun. Yes, I'd working with like serious people and stuff, but it'd never been like the be all and end all. So when that's when it was like, rah, like I now have to do this. I now have to be successful at this to pay bills. And it's like, it was never that before. So, and I'm just like jumping through like 15 years, but going back to it being a creative outlet is so much easier, so much more peaceful.
You gotta keep the heart in it. you know,
Definitely,
Yeah, that's
man.
and sometimes that's the hard bit, isn't it? It's like keeping the faith within it, and like so when you get to that point where you're like, oh, is this something that I want to like become a job as well as like my creative outlet? Like trying to get that balance or trying to work that balance in can sometimes be like a big struggle within it, isn't it?
Yeah, and it also depends on like what kind of job you're balancing it against. Like,
Yeah,
I know I was working in a newspaper, like a real like bang in the newsroom. It was like 40 plus hours a week, and then it would be running from there to the studio on a Friday, Saturday, or whatever, on the back of a late shift and all of that. And it tests your resolve because you're like, how much more do I want to do this? But I feel like it was kind of running away from the day job in a sense. And then when I went freelance, I was like, well, I got all of this time now. What do I do? Sort of thing. And then that adjustment was another one. I don't know about you. How was that for you? Like you said, when you went into full time. Like,
Same thing, man. Same thing, because it's like you always think in your mind like, oh, when I'm a boss, like no one's gonna tell me what to do.
Yeah.
But you're the boss, so no one's like you're not gonna tell yourself what to do. So at the same point, you need to get results, but then I'm the boss. So I'm just gonna sleep in today.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it's like how do you get that balance? Yeah, it was definitely a difficult adjustment for sure.
Yeah. And I find like the thing for me is like the adjustment, but also you get to a stage where it's like you're creating stuff and it's like, you know, like podcasts, for example, we've all got podcasts, right? So it's like you're like, I'm really happy with my podcast. I'm really happy with the output, the content, the guests, the conversations and everything. But then you can't help sometimes but looking at other people and going like, oh, like, how are they doing so well?
Comparison is the
like
thief
that,
of joy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
that comparison that always kind of sneaks in and kind of almost kills almost like starts to chip away your own belief in what you do. And like sometimes I find that a big struggle in terms of like just reassuring myself like, nah, just keep doing what you're doing, like don't look at each other's for like comparison's sakes, like use it as something else, like maybe inspiration or whatever.
100%. So I done a short vlog the other day on this very subject, and I filmed it when I was feeling exactly like that, just in general. And the vlog's called basically Know Your Why, because at times like that, when that voice comes into your mind and it's like, oh well, what's the point? That you're doing all of this stuff and you're kind of doing it out of one, the goodness of your heart, and plus you just want to see this thing out there. But it is work. It's a lot of work. And when you don't necessarily see the metrics of that, then that voice is like, oh, just allow it, man. Do you know what I mean? No one cares, blah, blah, blah. And you have all those things. And if you start listening to that voice more so than your reason of why you're doing it, that's when it can be quite dangerous. So I think, just really establish your why. And I think this is actually testament to your why, my why, and your why, because like you said, you speak about mental health. I know that this is what this podcast is about, and that's definitely my mission in life, is to just help people be a little kinder to themselves.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So we don't need to put that much of the world on our shoulders. Like at the end of the day, this is an outlet, and if it helps one person, then we're doing our job.
Yeah,
it's true.
Yeah, absolutely. But like listening to that voice inside you, sometimes you gotta tell it to shut up. You know what I mean? Sometimes, because it's like we just end up like putting ourselves in places where we just don't really, that we don't necessarily end up believing in what we're doing and whatnot. And it's that element of doubt is so troubling to the way that we kind of like create and put things out. But it's also testament to show how much we love what we're doing at the same time. Because if we didn't have that voice, then we probably wouldn't even have started or continued doing what we're doing. Yeah. So like it's about figuring out ways to figure out how to trust that voice as well at the same time.
Yeah. And also having a diversity of voices in your head. Like, I know I've watched Gary Vee for so long, I don't need to watch any of the videos anymore because he's in my head. So anytime that I'm not doing what I need to do, I hear it, I say, oh, what would Gary Vee say? Boom, there's the voice. Yeah. Or what would Tim Ferriss say, or Lewis Howes, or Oprah, or any of these people that have these, I've got mentors in my head just by consuming their content. Do you know what I mean? So I've got my own voice. Sometimes it's really helpful, sometimes it isn't. So I can you know, it's good to pull on different people's.
Yeah. How do you manage the voice then when it's not so helpful?
My wife, yeah, she helps me make sense of it all. Like up to a point, I'm really good, but when I do get into that mode where like the clouds have just come over me and it's a bit too, I'm not making sense of it all. I'll just speak to her, and it may come out as words that aren't even cohesive sentences, but she'll help me make sense of it. Yeah.
What about you, Alex? What do you do when it's like you're battling against that voice?
Sorry, I got a really bad cough at the minute, but yeah, I've just come out of a kind of a depressive anxiety funk, and it takes a while.
Yeah.
It takes a while. Like I really have to sit down, and I think a lot of people don't really understand. Like when you go freelance, you don't realize how lonely it's going to be.
Yes.
You spend 8 hours a day at work with people distracting you from all the stuff that you're doing outside of life.
Yeah.
And finally, when you're like, oh yes, I'm out of work, I'm doing all this by myself, I'm doing my thing. The high is great for a while, and then you're by yourself, but you're literally by yourself in your own determinations after. And then all of the things like around self-doubt and self-deprecation tend to come. And it's been a year of me like really trying to figure out how to talk to myself and be compassionate and be kind to that part of me.
Yeah.
So dealing with that voice has been like a consistent battle for like the past 10 to 11 months, because like he just pops up. He's out here talking shit in my head, and you know what I mean? It's just, and I know I try to quiet him, try to read, try to do all that stuff, but sometimes you know, for me, writing and kind of getting my thoughts out and making sure that, you know, I'm journaling before I go to sleep, or making sure that I'm emptying my mind before I go to bed or whatever. And then the affirmations.
Yes.
Because it's all about, because we talk about love languages, we talk about how we receive and all this kind of love, but we never talk about self-love languages and stuff. Talking, like for me, affirming myself, like having to do, I don't necessarily need it from others, but when I'm talking to myself, kind of need those affirmations to kind of make sure that I'm believing what I'm saying, and then that kind of sets me up for the day or sets me up for the evening. You know what I mean?
Completely.
So it's training. Like you literally have to train yourself to be able to speak to yourself kindly.
Yeah.
And
And I think it's also, I find a lot of it comes down to like expectation, and that's even, you mentioned like love languages. That's even with like relationships with people, and not necessarily like a partner, but friends as well. It's like
absolutely
a lot of the time it's the expectation. Like that person may not have done anything out of their normal kind of situation in life, but because they haven't done what you've expected them or would have liked from them to do in terms of like a love language or whatever, you then internalize it as something bad, and you start to think like, oh, well, can't believe you didn't do that, and you're not like that. But it's like, that's just who they are and what they're like. You can't bring that in onto yourself. You have to find that balance of like letting them be who they are and do what they do without then you putting the expectation, well, not even like putting the expectations, but having the expectations and then creating disappointment within yourself when they don't kind of meet that.
Man.
Yeah, for sure, man.
High expectation is like you're setting yourself up for disappointment.
I've been having this conversation recently with people, and the question I asked them is, in what example or what situation does expectancy bring you joy? Because in most examples or most situations, it either brings you just a level of okay or disappointment.
Yeah.
So you know, if you're a parent and you expect your kids to behave a certain way when you're out, and they do, then you're not like, oh yeah, that's amazing. But if they don't behave, then it invokes a different emotion, like anger or whatever. So, you know, expectancy, yeah, I don't know where it brings people joy.
Yeah.
No, I mean, like because you are expecting something from somebody without communicating exactly what you're expecting. So then, because there's only so much that you can specifically say when somebody specifically get, and it's that whole thing, the love languages thing. You don't know, like, you know what you would like. Not many people take the time to figure out what the other person would like. So therefore, because the thing is, love languages aren't necessarily for you in the sense, like, you need to know what the person that you love likes and how, and they need to know what you do.
Yeah.
And you need to know that yourself. So that way you can kind of manage those expectations a bit better. But man,
I mean, this all links back into empathy.
Yeah.
Ultimately.
Yeah.
So it's, empathy for the other person, whatever situation that they're in, and just thinking, I always try and ask like, what if? Okay, what if that person's going through A, B, and C? What would I do, or how would I think? You know, but yeah, it kind of just links back to empathy of, them. I'm losing my train of thought, but them being in a certain situation that you don't know of, and how that can affect you in the same way.
Yeah. What are your love languages then? Seeing as we've
At top of mine is quality time. The second one is physical touch.
yeah.
Then it's words of affirmation.
What are they?
So it's those three: words of affirmation, physical touch,
Quality time,
quality time.
acts of service, and receiving gifts.
Yeah.
Not receiving gifts.
No, man, that's at the bottom.
Yeah.
To be honest.
What did you say? Quality service.
Quality time. Quality service. Where's your head at?
That's something else.
So quality time, acts of service,
Yeah, quality
words
time, acts of service.
of
I think.
affirmation,
Yeah.
and physical touch.
Yeah, physical touch.
So
Yeah.
which one? But basically, because they're ranked from
Oh,
top to
okay.
bottom. That's why I was like,
What would be your top two?
yeah.
The first two that we just said, I'm forgetting what they were. Quality
Quality time.
and
Acts of
acts of
service.
service. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think mine are. I've never actually done like the test thing, but
Man, you gotta do that.
mine I would, off the top of my head, I'll know straight away physical touch.
Mm.
Particularly when you're with like a partner or whatever,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like it doesn't need to be constant, but I just like that kind
True.
of
Yeah.
intimacy, you know, because it's like I don't let a lot of people in that way. So when I do, I'm like,
Yes.
Yeah.
do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
That
yeah.
kind of thing. And then
Now
the other
you're
one
saying
would
it,
be
yeah.
probably acts of service, like people doing nice things. Like the rest, I'm just give or take. Like, I don't need words of affirmation. I don't need gifts. I don't need. What's one I'm missing?
Quality time.
Quality time. So you do quality time, but I would put that
Yeah.
in a strong.
It's weird though, because
third.
they kind of like mix, because
Yeah.
having that physical
Quality
touch would be
time,
quality
yeah.
time, right?
Yeah, but some people can have quality time, but like
Yeah.
be
so
sat at different ends of the sofa and
True,
like
yeah,
watch
yeah.
it, you know,
sometimes,
having
yeah,
a conversation. or
because
whatever.
sometimes there's intimacy of sitting in silence with
Yeah.
someone.
Oh, completely,
Yeah.
man.
And that's just it. Like,
Okay,
that's
yeah, I
quality
can do
time.
that as
You
well,
know what I
to be
mean?
fair.
And then that's disrupted, for example, if you're with somebody, friend or partner or whatever, and then they're on their phone, and they take a phone call, and then you're with them and you're like,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like having those kind of conversations.
Have you seen that meme? I think I screenshotted it the other day. I gotta find it. I've got a random screenshot of you in my phone. Look,
Mad.
I don't know where that's come from. I think you know what it is.
Quality time.
I think I was listening to your story
Oh,
earlier,
right.
and
Oh,
I
you pressed
pressed
it.
the things at the same time. The screenshot. I
man.
just noticed it. I hear it is that it's the picture of like two people on single beds, like with a gap between the beds, and they're both like holding hands,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it says, "When you're clingy but distant and don't want to come off too strong, but you need affection, but you get so easily annoyed."
Oh my God, see?
I was like, that's so me.
Yeah. I relate.
like I mean, and I've experienced this a lot in my friendships. That I'm very big on, hugging.
Yeah.
I'm very big on like like just having conversations, and any opportunity just to be like, oh, let's all come together and just have a chat.
Definitely,
any
man.
opportunity just to do that. When we doing games night, when we doing, you know what I mean?
100%.
Like, because something so important about like just communing, like especially
Definitely, man. I think
especially male friendships as well. Like,
100%. I've been saying this to my friends. Like, a lot of our friendships, and this is probably the same for you guys as well. But like when you have your friends group as teens, a lot of it's based around being together
Yeah.
and competing. So either playing
yeah.
games, playing football, like
Taking
even
the
if
piss
it's
out of each other,
taking
like
the piss
that
out of each
kind
other.
of- yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's banter, but it's always like
it's surface level.
yeah, like it's like you're one step above. Do you know what I mean? And obviously, as you get older, that kind of dissipates a bit, and then you wonder what's missing. What's missing with
What's
this?
behind
But,
that? Yeah.
But when you meet up, it's like boom.
Yeah.
Okay, there it is.
Yeah,
It's funny because I find like I've got different groups of friends for different things. So I've got like
Yeah.
those friends that you were talking about where you've grown up with them, and it's like that quality time aspect comes in. It's like I'm more than happy to go around one of their houses and just sit and watch football and
Yeah.
not even have a conversation, but just know that we're enjoying each other's company through something that we mutually both enjoy or whatever, or like, you know, gets takeaway or whatever. Then I've got other friends like Anton, who I would like bell up and be like, "We up to?" And we'll just go and hang out and we'll just
Right.
literally have conversation after conversation. Or we can also do the thing we just put something on like we were watching some Joe Rogan stuff at his the other day whilst we were talking about what they were talking about, and you know, so it's like I find that there's different groups for different that tick different boxes.
I feel
Definitely.
like, I've got my core friendship, and then that's just like, chat about everything. And there's like the ones that that you meet up for every so often and have those chats and stuff. I don't know. I do think that there's something to be said about having those kind of conversations, making sure that you're having them with especially with, as I said, with specifically your male friends, and just like figuring out, because even if you are competing, if you're coming to do a games night or something, it's good to be in that space and kind of break,
For sure.
like depending on the friend, obviously,
Yeah.
but
A lot of times that's the gateway
to
to
opening up
that
to
conversation.
opening up other conversations. You know what I mean? It's like when that gateway is not open and it's just constantly back and forth and whatnot, because then you have people like they lash out, and then you're like, and then there's arguments and stuff, but there's always a deeper root to where that anger's coming from, because it's so surface level, and when you're figuring out what's within, or kind of like what the root cause of it is, becomes
So here's something that's quite interesting actually. Like how then would you? So if you had a friend who you thought was not in a great place, and they're not a friend who's likely to talk about that sort of thing, like most guys probably. Let's be honest. And how would you then go about approaching that situation or facilitating the beginning of the conversation to get them to start talking about how they feel or what's going on?
My big thing is to create safe spaces. So, if it's that context, I'm just thinking of what I would do. I'd just probably like isolate that person, in the sense that I would say, all right, let's go out for a drink and talk about this stuff. And people know me, that I'm going to sit down, I'm going to be like, okay, so what's going on? Like,
Right, exactly.
we like, here to help, sort of thing. Sometimes it may require more than one of your friends to kind of like help kind of navigate that conversation. But then you start asking the, not too probing, obviously, depending on how sensitive it is, but you start to ask, you start to like, share, because the thing about friendship is that you kind of have to be vulnerable yourself in order to kind of receive vulnerability. So you then have to, you share, and then the more you share, and then once you're in a realm of trust as well, then you start to have those conversations. It's just creating the safe space to do it. That's
Completely,
from,
man.
From me.
No, I completely agree. Exactly the same thing. And if someone you know really well, you might, if it's in your friends group, you might know that one of your friends might be the better person to open up that conversation first. And if everybody's identified that there's an issue that this person's struggling with, but it's like you said, it's unlikely that they're gonna open up, then you kind of do have to have a strategy about it. But it does come down to it being a safe place. And it's harder nowadays because a lot of our friendship groups have reduced to literally WhatsApp groups or whatever. So
And time,
so super surface level, and anyone could say yeah I'm doing good, whatever, but you do need to try and just get into physically together, because that's where things tend to come out, especially if you're creating a safe space.
And what's important is also just to make sure that people know that you're genuinely there. There's nothing wrong with a check-in. Sometimes you're not the person that they want to speak to. Sometimes that's just it. Like, and that has to be fine. But there's nothing wrong with you checking in to be like, hey, no, you're not doing too good. No, you're not X, Y, and Z. I'm here. Hope you're doing all right. That's all it takes. Just a little message, little voice note sometimes to hear you're sincere, and that's it. Like, I think we build up a lot in our minds to get to those stages. So
and also I think it's for me, I found it's an understanding of, you can create the safe space and you can try and facilitate all of the stuff that you guys have just said, but ultimately it has to come from a place when the person feels like they're comfortable within themselves to talk about. Because I know, like me personally, like I took years to even after I'd figured out what was going on, I took a good maybe 2-3 years to even like talk to my friends about it. And that came weirdly when we were on the way to a football match. We were on the way to go and watch Arsenal, and we were gone for a drink before the game, and I can't even remember how the conversation came up. And I just poured everything out, like, this is what I'd been going through, this is how I was feeling.
Amazing.
And they were all just like, okay.
Right.
And it wasn't like super deep. I was just being like, talking like we're talking now. But I think it's like, you grow up in a certain circle or a certain thing, and you don't expect that conversation to come up over a beer while you're on the way to the football kind of thing.
It's finding the language to say it, to say these things. I mean, like articulating your thoughts. Sometimes the fear of like just like throwing stuff out and not kind of like having a clear understanding of what you're actually saying is a bit like,
that's the thing
stifling.
as well. Yeah, trying to articulate it, and then if you're not a person that's like openly sharing, how's that going to be received? Because usually, I mean, growing up as a male, you know, being emotional, there's a lot of shame and guilt around that. So, of vulnerability is deemed as a weakness, isn't it? So, among like going through that whole process, once you found the courage to do it, and it's like, oh crap, this is what I'm actually up against as well. But I mean, 9 times out of 10, you're going to be received with love, especially if it's with people that you love.
On emotions and men and the rest of it, when was the last time you both cried?
Good question.
I love the way you both made the exact same head movement.
Around 2 weeks ago. sorry. How long ago were you married?
11 months ago.
Okay.
Well, that's the last time I'm remembering.
Yeah.
Maybe. In between.
I definitely cried when Toni Morrison died.
Yeah. That
was something. That was hard hitting. But man, like cry often. Because sometimes it is a healthy thing. Just to kind of like get that release out, but especially when you're going through like emotionally intense stuff, like and it might be the way that it manifests in coming out. So then you just have to just cry it out sometimes.
That's it, man.
And that's it. Like, and then once you're done, you're like, okay, all right, I'm ready for the next thing. It wears me out, but it is what it is.
Yeah. Well, there's a reason for it, isn't there? There's a reason why that's an outlet.
Yeah.
But also, like, we cry of laughter.
Yeah, there's different types of crying.
Laughter, cry of happiness.
Yeah, exactly.
I have to be deeply moved. Moved sometimes,
I'm struggling to remember, but definitely my wedding.
Yeah.
And that was
I'm like, I can't remember the last time I cried out of pure sadness. But I quite often, in terms of like being moved by something, and it doesn't take a lot for me either. It's like I could be watching a David Attenborough documentary, and it's like my eyes will go, or sometimes during these interviews, like my eyes will go, or sometimes I was watching something on my phone, I saw a video on Twitter, which was like the most stupid thing ever. It was about a woman, you're going to laugh so much. It was about a woman who supports Arsenal, lives in America, and had never seen them play live. And she got to see them play live when they went to America, and her husband had recorded, or her boyfriend, whether, had recorded her reaction, and she was getting all emotional.
Yes.
And it just set me off, and I was just like, I was literally watching it crying.
Oh my
I was like, and that was literally the other day.
Yeah.
That's empathy though, bro.
Yeah, it's empathy, of course.
Yeah,
I'm highly empathetic to things like that. Even like, you know, if you watch like something like Britain's Got Talent or X Factor, or one of those like talent shows, and they do the whole play on the emotions of the sub story. Like, it will get me every time.
Yeah,
they've got that down to a science though. Oh my days, the production in that is insane. Like where they place the music, the key changes and stuff is just crazy. It gives you like you're not even interested, and you still get goosebumps.
And this is kind of the thing, like, because I'm a highly sensitive person. That's the kind of category that they put you in. So you feel things quite intensely. So when I was in I worked in news, and when you're constantly covering a murder, a kidnapping, something terrible, nearly all the time. There's a war. There's something going on, and it's like my emotions were constantly like at play. Like I was just like, wow, like I'd get so caught up in it that it kind of inhibit me from doing the actual job. You see what I mean? So even watching the news, I kind of like take a step back from watching it too often and kind of following it too often, because it really, sometimes they really it pulls at me. And and I really have to withdraw sometimes, because I kind of like stick with stories that they are moving, but at the same time, you know that it's not constantly thrown at you every single night, every single day. Because then there's people that work on the news desks, typically in journalism, they love it. They consume the trauma all the time, and they can kind of like create those barriers and boundaries. And I just really couldn't. I was a wreck. all the time.
Yeah, man, I can definitely relate to that. It's all about like your inputs and outputs. I mean, they say you are what you eat.
Yeah.
But I mean, we've got so many inputs and so many things that we're looking at, listening to, breathing in, you know, looking on our phones and stuff. And
all the time.
Those things are like chip away, especially if you're, like you said, a highly sensitive person or empathetic person. And you wouldn't even realize when it's really hit you. And it's like, oh crap, like, it feels like a bus has hit me, but I don't even know where this has come from. But it's just this like drip effect.
And it's also, I find like it depends on the state that you're kind of coming from at the time. So like, while I was away recently, I started writing like long-term project, writing about my journey. So I was kind of like recapping in depth about the stuff that I went through like years ago, like the depression and anxiety, and kind of putting myself back in that place mentally to try and feel it and relive it. It's hard. It's very tough. So like my emotional state during those few days was really like, it was almost back in that place. It was weird. I was like, me and Anton were talking about the other day, it's a bit like method acting, you know, putting yourself in that mindset, and it was kind of brought up all those emotions and those feelings again. So the reason I'm saying that is because I then had a heart-to-heart with someone, and I was just crying the whole time, and I was just like, in my head, a part of me was like, I know I'm crying because I'm in this highly emotional state, but also I know I'm crying because I really care about this person. We're having a heart-to-heart. But then it wasn't anything necessarily bad. And then literally like 2-3 days later, we had like a very similar conversation, and I was totally fine because I wasn't in that weird state. So I think sometimes it does depend on the emotional state you're in anyway, in terms of like how much it plays on you and pulls at those strings, you know.
Completely. That kind of links back to what you were saying about like when to check up on friends and stuff, because we're all people, and I messaged you the other day to see if you was experiencing the same thing, but we're like all podcasters and all people that try and help others within your mini community. You're probably the person that people go to when they need to speak and open up, but they not necessarily open up with the people that they need to for this specific situation. But when you in particular are in that emotional state where you need help, I think it's important to remember, and me, how that feels at the time. Because for me, I don't want to speak to anyone. Do you know what I mean? And if someone reached out and said, you're seeming a bit weird at the moment, that would trigger me further. Do you know what I mean? So recently I've just tried to be mindful of that, because it doesn't happen often. I have to remember that other people do, you know, they live within that state more often than I am. And I don't always want to be that I'm coming from a different place. Let me help you up kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? It's sometimes, like you said, the person needs to emerge when they're ready.
Therapy helps.
Yes.
Therapy definitely helps. And you will leave there triggered every single time. It's fine. I remember the first time I went in, and she was like, so when you leave this room, it might not happen half an hour after, it might happen an hour after, but this week at some point, all the stuff that we've spoken about is going to come back and hit you. so just be mindful of that. Like, whatever. Went there on a Wednesday, was a wreck by Friday. It's just like, oh my God, like all the stuff that you don't necessarily remember, or the kind of things that you have to unpack and whatnot. But that's one of those things of like, you know, actual kind of who are you going to if you don't necessarily have the people there, because I mean, I've got an amazing group of friends who we all can lean on each other for these kind of things, but there's only so far that you should expect your friends to help you and your family to help you. You should sometimes it's okay to have an objective opinion,
absolutely,
and they will prod you and poke you further than your friends and family ever would, because they are paid professionals.
Definitely.
And then 55 minutes.
How do you deal with those moments then when you have been to like a therapy session and then like 2-3 days later you're like, is that what I was saying about you're almost back in that place where you didn't even really, like you'd thought you'd, you know, it's like that method acting thing again. You're like being back in that place and going through it again.
I kind of end up just like, what's the word? Debriefing. I'm going to end up debriefing with my friends and being like, whew, okay, so this week in therapy it was like X, Y, and Z, and it feels good to kind of like, you know, have kind of like solidified some of my thoughts and thinking, because therapy like tends to be a process. Like you probably will cover a particular topic for like 4 weeks, 4 or 5 weeks, or 4 or 5 sessions, however often you do it. But once you kind of like get past and you start seeing the breakthrough in the change in the way that you interact with X and Y person or X and Y topic, then it's easier to start talking about those things to people, because then you can start becoming more comfortable and safe in whatever the issue was. Because sometimes it's not like obviously they ask probing questions like, how do you feel about that? What was that like? And then then they'll just look at you and just wait for there to be an answer. Sometimes there'll be silence for at least 30 seconds, which feels like 5 minutes.
Yeah,
like,
of course.
all right, so I have to answer then.
I've just realised I do that on here when I'm interviewing someone. I'm like, so how did that feel? And they're like, what? How did it feel?
Yeah,
because a lot of the time it's the first time you're verbalizing.
Yeah, and these are genuine questions that are, and these are questions that should be normal. Like, so how do you feel about that? And then it's about articulating exactly what that feels. And as you said, like once you verbalize that, oh, I'm angry. Okay, where's the anger coming from? Then you start to interrogate that.
Yeah.
And it might not even be the thing that you went in there to talk about. And then you end up somewhere so far left, you're like, wow, that shit what happened when I was 5. I didn't really know that. You know what I'm saying? All that stuff. So, but yeah, taking the time out, like after the sessions, just to debrief with yourself sometimes. It's good to, like, for me, I just journal and just kind of like get my thoughts together. Sometimes it's good to like just chat about it and be excited about it, like, because it's a new wave of, like, you know, addressing some of these issues.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Do you find then that you almost what am I trying to say is, like, through going, so like you mentioned something about, I don't know how serious you were, but like saying, oh, that happened when I was 5 or whatever. Yeah. Like, just as an example, like, do you find then that you start to almost reconceptualize that thing with newfound kind of, you've got so many more years experience on top of it, you can look at it in a totally different way and sort of be like, oh, okay, actually maybe that wasn't that bad, or that was because of that, instead of at the time it would have been a totally different reaction or feeling.
It's, a lot of the time for me it was like, okay, you can accept your feelings, you're allowed to feel that way about it. Like, you know, when most children are young, their parents aren't A, apologizing to them, B, doing anything. But then I'm the kind of person I like to see from all sides sort of stuff, but I have to accept how I felt about the situation. If I was angry about that situation, I have to accept that I was, and it upset me and traumatized me, whatever.
Yeah.
But also, I then have to look at the parent or the person that was doing that and think, with empathy, and be like, okay, so what were they going through in order for them to kind of relay that? And remember, energy is transference, so who knows what was transferred to them? And a lot of time you then kind of project it onto an innocent child or young person or whatever, who can't necessarily defend themselves in the same way, or, you know, talk back. Especially when you grow up in a African Caribbean community, talking back to your elders is a bit, you know, it's taboo. You know what I'm saying? It's taboo. So, but also never hearing a parent say they're sorry about something, never hearing them humanize themselves, because, you know, like, I think a lot of people grow up and they realize that, say, their parent is then human, and then the kind of the superhero thing kind of comes down, and they are this human with all these flaws, and that's when all these things start to kind of flesh out. But yeah, so dealing with all of that and processing it, and then realizing the nature of human relationships and how you feel in those situations is important. And not a lot of people, not a lot of men address those. They just kind of move through life like avoiding it and being ignorant about it.
Why do you think we do that?
I think we follow the models of what we've seen, and particularly from like immigrant families, or like first generation, second generation. I'm only speaking from our experience in London. Parents have either come over or been born here, and, you know, the one objective is to survive, you know. And when you look back through your life, and there's certain elements of it that you may have, like you said, perceived as like trauma at that time. It's probably your parent was just trying to do, in fact, not trying, but they were doing their best at the time. Like, it's funny. It's only now when I've become like the age I am, and I'm like, the age right now, my dad had 6 children. I've got none. I'm like, how the hell did you even do that? And so with the experience that you had through life, and you're raising 6 kids. So my whole life has been based off of, the experiences that my mum and dad had, and that's been amazing. But at the same time, there are things that happen in your life where you add meaning as a child, and but as an adult, you look back, you're like, oh well, it was just something that was said, or it didn't mean what you thought it meant, but because you've carried that bit of luggage with you for like 20 years, it means it's always going to be there, But that's where therapy really helps, and having that unbiased voice, non-judgmental. For sure. I haven't had like therapy in that sense, but I've got a coach who I met at a thing called Landmark Education.
Okay.
Yeah. So I did that when I was 17.
Wow.
Yeah, I did it when 17. I'm 34 now. So literally 17 years ago. So half my life. And so through that is very much the same kind of philosophy, and that's that whole things happen when you're a kid, and because of that you add meaning. So for example, something happens and that means I'm not good enough, so therefore I carry this I'm not good enough into every part of my life and through life, and the longer I take it with me, the bigger it gets. But thankfully I met a coach and a really good friend of mine, who's always like my therapist in a way. He wouldn't like to be called that. But again, it's that person that is kind of connected, but far apart enough to look at your life from a bird's eye view, and just call you out on stuff, or just say things, or plant seeds, like you said. So like 3 days later, you're like, oh yeah. Or like you say you are authentic, so why are you doing this in this area of your life? I remember this happened once, and I was like, well, I'm saying I'm a, because you have to make affirmations and stuff. So I'm saying I'm a, for example, powerful person, but I don't want to be. I'm saying I'm a confident person, but I don't want to have this conversation in this area. But everywhere else, I'm confident, and I choose to be that. I was like, well, you're not then. You're not confident unless you are confident, So it's just having that outside voice that really like makes you like stand up and take notice, and it just helps you see your life through a different point of view. It's really, really helpful. I was going to ask you, how would you suggest other people approach therapy? Like, because that's not really a conversation that people have, because people might be intrigued about it, but where do they go? Like, what's the realistic side of it?
Several things.
And how did you find your therapist?
How did I find my therapist? So my friend at the time said was going through therapy, and she was basically like, look, I think you could benefit from it, going through some deep, intense stuff. And that just took me like months and months to kind of like get myself together to then start emailing out to these therapists. But I went to the Black and Asian Therapist Network, barton.org, and that was good, because then it has a directory, and based upon region in the UK, and obviously you can pick a therapist. It's for diverse clients. So there were different specialisms as well. So there's that. There's frontline therapy as well. They basically have affordable therapists for affordable therapy for their clients. So those are good spaces. And once you start delving into looking for these therapists, you treat it like you would treat any kind of specialist.
Right.
If you have a back issue, you'll go to look for a chiropractor. Like, what I mean? If you have, particular eating disorders, you'll go to a nutritionist or a dietitian. You have deep emotional, mental, strains, so you go to a therapist. What I mean? It should be that kind of train of thought. Absolutely. When you start to look. The NHS they do their in-house therapy. I mean, it's oversubscribed, and they have a long waiting list.
Sure.
But if you can wait, your council does does these things too. Like I remember when I first started embarking on it, my counsel told me to go to a stress management group. And I was like, that's not kind of what I wanted. I need a one-on-one conversation with someone. So I had to then figure out, like, I need to invest some money into this. I need to put some money aside to say, all right, I want to do, they advise that you do around 6 sessions kind of consecutively, weekly, just to get used to the therapeutic process and stuff. But yeah, like I would say, just there's all those routes. Google, just like literally therapists in my area, counseling in my area, and then kind of figure it out. But I think most therapy frontline therapy is between £20 and £30 an hour, which is actually pretty like affordable for some people. They use trainee counsellors at the time. But at Barton, I think that the going rate is from like £45 to around 65.
Okay.
So it's about figuring out what your budget is. I mean, there are kind of like payment plans that you can set up with your therapist, your individual one, So there's so many options.
It's weird though. So because I know people would be, but that was super helpful by the way.
No,
I know people would be like, oh, what, £45, like £60, like allow it, because we're so used to just like brushing things under the carpet. But it's like one of those things. Once you do it, you realize the weight that it takes off of your shoulders, man.
Absolutely.
And how much joy and peace.
Yeah, man. It's really helped me with communicating. And then again, having a conversation with my friends and then learning how to communicate, setting up boundaries. And I think boundaries is becoming this really weird buzzword lately, that everyone is kind of like, boundaries. I'm setting up my boundaries. Don't cross them. Don't push them. All that stuff. Everyone's setting up those kind of things. But I think they're so important. Yeah. And you have to have them with your family. You have to have them with your friends. You have to have them within your romantic relationships too. Yeah. You have to have them.
Yeah.
Because
it's not just have them, you have to know what they are as well.
You have to know what they are.
And that's the first bit, isn't it? It's like recognizing it for yourself.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you could be doing the wrong thing. You could be setting up a boundary to not protect yourself, but to hide yourself.
There we go. That's a wall. Yeah. That's a barrier.
Yeah.
So there's a
very good point.
You got to figure out what the difference between your barriers are and your boundaries, and that's a process that you have to learn. But then that depends on the person. For me, that was what I had to learn. I had to learn what the barriers were and what the boundaries were, and that's kind of that was the important thing. But other people go through trust issues and to figure out why they don't trust people and stuff, and you know what I mean. Like it's just
for sure.
I definitely went for a no new friends phase, like a Drake moment, but it was good. Like, I mean, but I had to figure out what that was and why. And then once I did, I was like, oh, okay, now I can be open to making more and more friends again.
Yeah, you're definitely making me think.
Yeah, I mean, like, communication is just so important. Like, it's why so many relationships fail. It's why so many things happen day to day. Like, I'm by no means perfect, but I'm trying. I'll go through old WhatsApp conversations that I had with like friends I no longer talk to or whatever, and I'm just like, Alex, man, what were you doing? Like, you did not need to respond like that at all. Like, you know what I mean? You could have been a lot clearer in what you're saying in a way that wasn't so like razor sharp. This is why I took a step back from Twitter. Yeah. As well, because Twitter makes you reactive.
Very reactive, yeah.
And it's all about getting the retweets and getting these quick, sharp moments and getting these jabs at people. And
that's what social media is in general, really. Isn't it? It's hunting for likes, hunting for validation from people who you don't even really know.
But Twitter's like a battlefield, though.
Yeah, Twitter's
it's like
major.
Like somebody tweets something. They quote tweet it with a snarky comment that everybody laughs at behind the screen, and then it shares it into their WhatsApp groups or whatever.
Exactly. But it's like what we were saying before about having that banter in between friends, and it's like everyone's just cussing each other in hopes of getting the biggest laugh. Yeah. And Twitter's like that constantly. Do you know what I mean? But I kind of imagine it like a massive room with all these different groups of people.
Everybody shouting.
Everyone's shouting, and then like you're in your group.
Yeah.
like Arsenal Twitter, for example. And then, so Arsenal Twitter is talking about Arsenal
Football
stuff.
Twitter,
Yeah.
it's-
So we're talking about Arsenal stuff all day, and then you hear something from the Brexit group, and you're like, "What did you say?" Like, but you're on Arsenal Twitter, so you've now joined that conversation,
Yeah.
and then you're shouting at this person, they're shouting back at you, blah blah blah, and it just keeps on going round and
Yeah.
round and round. I mean, I'm addicted to Twitter,
Yeah, I
but
can't
it
stand
definitely has its drawbacks.
Yeah, I can't stay on anything too long. Like, sometimes I get sucked into Instagram, but
Instagram's the worst.
You know what? Like
It's the best in the West.
We curate the spaces we want to kind of navigate well. I guess I don't have the Twitter app. I deleted that.
Yeah.
Nice.
I go onto like I sometimes forget I have it. Sometimes someone will send me a tweet and be like, "Oh, look at this tweet," so I click it and then I'm like, "Oh shit, it's my Twitter account. I'm still signed in," and then I have notifications. I'm like, "What?" But I forget I have it. I mean, my main thing, I like Instagram because I'm a visual learner.
same.
I unfollowed a trunk load of things that was just causing me distress, like videos that I didn't need to see. Just people shouting and stuff. If I need that, I go to my Discover page. And
Right,
I,
exactly.
I consume that content, but on my actual feed, get Alex's quotes.
Yeah, exactly.
I see cool videos.
Yeah.
I'm just like, yeah, I like that. It's
Yeah.
a slice of life. You know what I mean? And it's just
It
nice.
is.
I don't
Yeah.
need
I've
need too
started
much.
to, like, if I've noticed there's something in my feed,
Yeah.
but when I see it, it doesn't give me a good feeling, I'll unfollow them.
There we go.
That doesn't. I don't care who they are.
Yeah.
If I've noticed I keep getting a similar feeling, I'm just like,
Yeah,
you're
that's
gone.
it.
You're
Yeah,
gone
you-
from my feed.
Yeah,
I don't want it.
You got to question that. I'm a huge fan of like muting posts and
straight.
stories.
Yeah, definitely.
I love that feature.
Oh yeah, mute's brilliant.
Mute posts and stories. I'm like, yes.
Yeah, because you
Go.
curate your feed. It's a
good.
weird one as well, like because Instagram's not just like podcasts. It's not just dope stuff that you're following or sports or anything.
Everything.
It's literally the whole internet.
Mm.
It's the whole internet in one app. But with that, it's so there's so much expectancy with it.
Yeah.
Because even like with because there's so many people on it, like including families and friends, family and friends, and also like older relatives
Instagram.
and things like that on Instagram now. Because it's becoming a bit like Facebook.
Well,
And there's a level of expectancy that you get from different groups of people, that I know that people are kind of struggling with. Some people just like delete the whole thing because it's just too much to deal with. You know what I mean? But it's a lot of things we're juggling, man, in life. Like back in the 70s or 80s, you didn't really have to
you see,
deal
so
with-
sometimes,
deal with that much.
yeah, sometimes I wish, like, I don't wish. Sometimes I consider or think what it would have been like if we were this age, but like it be 95 and we were doing the same. Well, we wouldn't be really doing the same things, but we were
Yeah.
kind of like in the same space. I feel like
Music would be better.
Music's still good. You need to maintain that. But it's like sometimes I think, oh, it must have been just much simpler. Like,
It
I
was,
mean,
man.
yeah, because I feel like I remember like when I was younger, literally just being in my room and reading, and I'm not having to worry about my phone or what was going on there, or you know what I mean, or
Yeah.
I mean, the most I had at that time probably was like MySpace or something.
Yeah.
Going on MySpace was like, oh, this is really cool, but
Yeah.
But you know what? I've always it's always baffled me a little bit. But I mean, I lived it, but I still am just like, I don't know how we lived. It was like making plans, like
Sick.
how, like
Be at this place at this time.
But
And that's it.
There must be like, especially like when our parents were growing up, for example, there must have been such a level of trust.
yeah,
Yeah.
I guess there was a lot of like, not youth clubs, but like,
community things.
yeah,
to
community
do.
things where it's
Yeah,
like,
I remember
like
That's a very good point.
like a
the village
monthly
type.
disco type or
Yeah.
whatever. Do you know what I mean? It's like you just knew
Yeah.
everyone was going
Right.
to be there, and that
the
would
communities,
be.
the communities were strong.
Yeah,
Definitely. Youth clubs 100% played a massive factor in that, and that comes down to I probably don't want to go down the whole knife crime and stuff route, but I believe in terms of like what we're talking about with friends, in terms of like just meeting up physically,
Yeah.
even if you don't know each other. If you've had a physical interaction with someone, there's a level of empathy you built with that person. Or even if I've not spoken to you, but I know that you are cousins with my man over there, and he's friends with my brother's older, whatever. If there's an altercation, it's gonna make you think twice. You're like, oh crap,
yeah.
because you know that person knows that person. But now everything's just so separate. There's no interaction. in my opinion, that's why there's so much
Which is
conflict.
we're also disconnected, man. Also disconnected.
We're so connected, but we're so disconnected.
yeah, that's it.
Absolutely.
We create
Which is weird.
we create a false idea of what connection is.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And that's why I kind of like, I do limit the amount of things that I like consume on the internet, and like with like I do value, like, you know, Instagram friendships or whatever, like social media friends. I do value them a lot, but I don't. But this is why I couldn't really be on Twitter, because couldn't really get so invested in that space when I know that I have WhatsApp where people, like, you know me or have my number,
Right.
we can talk on there. Do you see what I mean? And you can kind of like get your point across with people that genuinely want to listen to you, because that's just the space for you to do that.
Yeah, you're not trying to impress.
You're not trying to, man. But,
Yeah.
you know, with the whole how do you make plans, my uncle used to tell me, like, he went to the phone box, he would say, he'd probably call and be like, all right, meet at the post office at 7:30. They're like, yeah, cool, they'll be there. And if they weren't there at 7:30, then you're going to they know where you know that they're going to the thing, and you'll see them there or whatever.
Yeah,
or
man.
someone will send someone to say something. Do you see what I mean? And again, simpler times, man.
Yeah.
Simpler times,
Simpler
man.
times. The days must have been longer.
Yeah.
Everything must have
The
been.
thing is, like, there's the other things that we used to get bored, like, but there's a joy in boredom,
Yeah.
because that's where
Breeds
imagination
creativity,
and
yeah.
creativity
Yeah,
comes out. That's why there was so much
Oh,
great stuff back then, you know. And even like just experiencing like a game, for example, like when a game will come out, there wasn't much resources. There was only magazines or adverts on TV.
Yeah.
So when you got it, you're like, oh my days, because I haven't seen the trailer, I haven't seen the walkthrough, I haven't seen a reaction video.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
We get given so much.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
I'm just so glad
But
I was born in the era.
Even
that I was.
like, so one of the things I find really hard is like, and it sounds really stupid, is like, you know, so using Top Boy as an example, which obviously came out recently on Netflix. It took me so long to watch it because I've got like a commitment issue when it comes to like, you've given me all 10 episodes at once.
Oh, you're a
Right.
millennial, man.
I feel like I have to commit to that 10 hours. Whereas like if something comes out weekly and it's kind of drip fed and it's a slower process, it's like I feel like it's easier for me to commit to like that one episode a week, because when it's the full 10, you feel like you have to watch it because you know that everyone else is going to watch it, and you're going to miss out on those conversations. So going back to what you were saying, where it's like you got the game, you hadn't played the game, you hadn't heard about it, you'd only read like something about a review in a magazine, that's all you had. Is now we get like everything at once and everyone's talking about it, and you kind of you get sucked into this like cultural like bubbling pot of everything, and you don't actually get a chance to just like enjoy things when and how and why you want
You know
it.
what? I just missed the 3310.
Yeah,
I literally missed the 3310, man.
Bad boyfriend.
You know what I mean? And like just sending a text message and then hoping to get a response.
Yeah.
none of this typing.
Yeah, red
or
receipts
blue tick stuff.
Or
but you're
writing
right.
because this is when you had to mind your texts as well, like writing a 3-page long text or 3 texts and then deleting it by accident.
Oh my god, yeah.
Yeah. So talking of simpler things and simpler times, I know Alex, obviously you're a big book person, you're like the book person, and Ryan, I know you're pretty well read as well. What are 2 books that have really impacted your lives?
Oh, so it will be me. Impacted my life.
Yeah, like either from
Alex.
like a creative perspective or like something inspirational or
I can think
a
of
positive thing or just made you think differently about something.
first one for me would be Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh.
Oh, I've got that on my wish list, man.
Read it tonight. Honestly, that when my mum gave me that when I was 16, and completely changed my life. Like read it, like I've never been consumed by a book that much because I was always very curious about different ways of thinking of things, and this is grew up Christian, and this is a way of looking at that from a different viewpoint, and it just blew my mind. And a lot of it is like just modern day philosophy, like what people would deem like being spiritual.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of the way I've like, honestly, like my operating system, I think has come from, or at least started from that book.
Yeah.
And then where it's led to like landmark education, and everything that I've read and done since then has come from from that book. So that's absolutely been life changing for me.
Sick.
The second one would be The Alchemist.
Alchemist, yeah.
By Paulo Coelho. That's probably my favorite book of
Yeah.
all time, just because I'm a massive believer in, you know, having your dream and following your journey. And I can't think of a book that describes that so perfectly.
Yeah.
And everything that comes with it. I mean, I won't spoil it, but definitely read that. Those
Yeah.
two books have really shaped me.
What's the biggest takeaway you took from Alchemist?
Biggest takeaway I've taken from The Alchemist is the dream can send you on the wildest adventure, but what you were looking for may be where you were or where you are, and that's mind-boggling.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's, you know, it takes that going around
Yeah.
the world to find out where you are was where you actually wanted to be.
Sick, yeah.
Cool.
Good book.
So I was just finding an author. But yeah, so one of the, I'll say the two that kind of really shaped me. In my final year of uni, I read On the Shortness of Life by Seneca. Now,
That's a tough one, man.
that book, yeah, like it just, and even Plato's Symposium, but yeah, like on the brevity of life, the shortness of life, that was, it kind of like introduced me to, you know, that whole life is too short kind of phrase, and then you just kind of start to think about little things that you should be doing to kind of make the most out of the time we have here.
Yeah.
And we get so consumed in what we haven't done, and like, you know, and get overwhelmed in that sense. But, you know, there's other things that we need to kind of like, you know, we should be out there living life. And then when we look around the world and all these kind of man-made restrictions that we've put onto ourselves, these mental blocks that we're giving ourselves, all of that stuff, it was just a nice way. It was a nice little meditation to kind of think, right, life is short. It is. How can I be the best, and how can I do the best possible thing to make my life as fulfilling,
Yeah.
and as abundant as I possibly can. And that was really good. And that was similar with Plato's Symposium, which was talking about love and the different facets and avenues of love. That kind of does feed into that, you know, the best parts of life. You know, like as humans, we're out there trying to love more, trying to learn more, trying to be the best possible person that we can be, and the kind of contributions we can give back to one another in that sense. So those, but the second one was The Prophet by Khalil Gibran. So I first came across the Prophet from the Boondocks episode. Did you guys watch the Boondocks?
I didn't watch. I mean, I've seen some of them, but
You didn't watch them. You know the concept of him? You know the concept of it?
Yeah.
I think there was a scene
You want to
where...
explain the concept?
Okay, so Huey and Riley are brothers. They go and live with their granddad, played by John Witherspoon, rest in peace.
R.I.P.
And they go to the suburbs. They're from Chicago, and they go to the suburbs, and it's about dealing with everyday microaggressions and racial tensions and stuff, and the stuff that they would experience in the suburbs. But they are so woke as kids, and they're so starkly different. So, you know, Huey's like woke and kind of like very mindful, very political, and then Riley's just like this young wannabe thug gangster, and then Granddad's like the old school Granddad. And there's a scene, must have been at a funeral, and there was chaos. Granddad's friend's funeral or something, and in order to calm things down, because Huey tends to stop people, like, because he says something deep, and everybody has to listen, and they're like, wow. But he must have said something, like, I think Granddad must have been like, Huey, say something deep, like, to kind of like stop the tension.
Yeah.
And he must have recited, because the way the prophet is split up, it's a prophet comes to a town and he talks on particular things, on beauty, on life, on pain. And Riley recites, I think, the first paragraph on pain. And like, pain is the breaking of your shell that encloses your understanding. and all this. And I was like, wow, let me go and read this book. And that's when I went in to read it. And it's an amazing conversation. Like the prophet coming over and talking to the people and just kind of like giving his little slices of life to them and like his mindset. And very amazing book. Like some amazing nuggets that touch you in different ways every time you read it. I'd say that's a good book.
Add that to my list, man.
Yeah, sounds sick.
The Prophet is amazing.
Yeah, and the Seneca one I've wanted to. It's on my list. It's just
Seneca's good.
Need to get around to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've tried.
Them classics are interesting.
I might have to look for the audiobook version.
Yeah. Have you guys
I think
ever
Tim
read?
Ferriss put out the audiobook version of
Pardon?
I think Tim Ferriss put out the audiobook version of that, actually.
Okay.
Seneca, yeah.
Yeah, he always talks about Seneca a lot.
Yeah.
That's where I've got a lot of. That's what I think I got the list from.
Yeah.
Tim Ferriss stuff. I was gonna say, have you guys ever read any Krishnamurti?
No.
Who?
Jiddu Krishnamurti was a Indian. He wasn't even from India. He was from I can't remember what the. It's like a. I can't remember off the top of my head. But he's basically an Indian philosopher. But he wasn't a philosopher, but he basically was. And he's got so many amazing books that just similar to what you were saying about the Prophet, where he breaks things up into like love and friendship, and he just into so many different ways. And yeah, his books, some of the ones that have been the most powerful for me in like the last year, let alone ever. Like I picked it up at the right time when I was a little bit like started to show a little bit confused about a few things and just going through like a weird transition period. And this book just really like grounded me. Like there was two. There was one called The Awakening of Intelligence, and another one called Freedom from the Known. Awakening of the Intelligence is like literally transcripts of like his talks. So he used to give like talks in front of like hundreds of people. And then Freedom from the Known is more like actual written with an author, like passages. Both incredible, like honestly. Like just so what I'm into, because I'm super into like my Eastern mysticism, spirituality and that sort of stuff. So
same, man.
It's all that trail of thought. A lot of similar stuff to like the Stoics, like very kind of in that world. So it's like super interesting, but like it's totally different to everything else because he doesn't like associate himself to anything. He doesn't even refer to himself as a philosopher or a this or that. He just always refers to himself as the speaker because he's just like, I'm just a speaker. That's it.
Right.
Just passing on stuff.
I wonder how, because we're like referencing books that are like decades old or even older. I wonder how this kind of philosophy or these thoughts are going to manifest for like in the next 20, 30 years. Is it going to be like, will people get this stuff through podcasts or something like that? Like, how do you reckon it's going to be?
Possibly. I think it'll be a bit. I think books are never going to die, really, are they?
Yeah, everyone's getting scared about things.
Yeah, I don't think they just won't, because there's something nice about. Like, I can't read a book on a Kindle. I haven't even done audiobooks. I just enjoy having the physical book and just knowing that all of the knowledge is there in my hands. There's just something really beautiful about it. And one of the things, funny enough, that I took from Krishnamurti was like, when I used to read a book, before I started a chapter, I would see how long the chapter was before I read it. So I knew...
Do you give yourself time?
Time to read it or time to just, whatever. Could I finish it before, whatever? But then when I was reading his book, I just started to not care. And I just started reading. And it was like, why do I need to know how long the chapter is? I just need to read what I'm reading right now, right in front of me.
Auditioning it.
Is
this worth my time?
And some of the chapters were long, and they would just go and they would go and they would go, and I still wouldn't search for the ending. I'd just wait till I got there. It's just like...
It's a good life lesson.
Have you read any Osho?
No, I haven't.
Osho, watch Wild Wild Country though on Netflix. That's so it's about Osho and about
Wild Country.
Wild Country or Wild Wild Country. Yeah. Watch that. But he's got this book called Emotional Wellness. Yeah. And he proper talks about, because he's this guy. He's just like, attachment. There's no such thing as the present and the past. He's that kind of guy, you know what I mean?
Sounds like
and it's really, and he's very interesting, I'd say. And it makes you think about attachment in different ways. The kind of things we get attached to really inhibit us from actually like experience the fullness of life. Do you know what I mean? You know, we feel bonded to certain things, and it's just like, why? Like, we get so consumed about the stuff that is just in our heads and the things that we feel that we need to be, you know, wholeheartedly just attached to. And then it's like, well, these things are all constraints that you just don't need to be so attached to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We build up so much in our minds. So much is happening up there. It's like, once we learn to let things go and just move, then I've been using that to kind of work on for the past few years, just working on grudges and stuff, because I can't, grudges will kill you, you know, like I can't actually be bothered with it. Like it's just something, if it's causing me that much distress, like,
Well, they say it's like holding a hot coal with the intention to throw it back at somebody,
right,
but you're the only one that's getting burnt by holding that. So yeah, forgiveness is a lot, man. Like,
oh, absolutely.
It's funny. I was saying to my wife, I've never had like a romantic heartbreak, but working in the music industry, I've had heartbreak,
creative heartbreak.
Yeah, but no, just even like relationships.
Yeah, okay.
Because you get into real intense relationships with people, and you because it's all intertwined with your hopes and dreams and money and finance and blah. It's like being in a relationship, and then things happen, and like your heart can be broken. And it's been very difficult for me to let go of that, and and to kind of let go of those grudges, because they're big scars. Do you know what I mean? But you have to like know within yourself that this ain't hurting. This is only hurting me. You know, by holding on to that as hard as it is to kind of let go and kind of like compartmentalize in your mind. And also like look back at your own actions as well, because probably have the tendency to look back and be like, I was right here, I was right there, I did this, they did this wrong, blah blah blah. But when you like let go of it a bit and you look back at it as a situation, you're like, you weren't acting correctly, really. Do you know what I mean?
It's essentially what you were saying about talking to yourself and learning that, but then it's also really about forgiving yourself in those situations.
Yes.
I had this conversation with my friend the past few months, and talking about like, you know, friendships that ended negatively, and I was like, how do you kind of like move past that? Like, you know, in your head you're replaying all of the things that went wrong, and then it's like you literally have to sit back and forgive yourself. Like, forgive yourself for saying things like that to that person, for receiving it in that way, and doing that. And I'm like, you're right. And then once I did that, I was lighter. The stress in my neck was gone. Everything was fine. I was like smiling.
Yeah, so it's also, it comes back to what we were talking about earlier about that thing of acceptance, isn't it? And just accepting. You were talking about anger, for example, accepting that you were angry in that moment or whatever, and that's fine. Like, there doesn't need to be anything else. Like, it was what it was. Like, you don't need to hold on to that hot coal anymore. And it's like, I think that lesson of attachment and letting go of things and acceptance is such a big part of like what we all go through. And we need to kind of learn to process it and understand it so we can come out of it the other side, you know?
For sure, man. Dr. Brené Brown said something recently. Yeah.
Flipping out.
Amazing. But she was talking to, in her book, Daring Greatly. She was breaking down an example of, I think they had an argument with their spouse or something like that. I can't remember the exact example, but what she said is, but what if they're doing their best? What if they're trying their best?
Yeah.
And it's like, ooh,
it was her and
when
husband.
it was her and husband. Okay. Oh yeah. What if he's just doing his best? And it's like, well, that's like ultimate empathy.
Yeah.
Because it's like, shoot. Because you can just go back in any situation that you're holding a grudge on. It's like, oh, but what if they were just doing their best and they just don't know what to do beyond that?
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh wow.
Yeah.
And what if you were doing your best at the time? Like, you know, because now you can look back and actually analyze it. You've kind of grown from that situation, and that allows the space for forgiveness.
Yep.
And letting go. And it's like,
There's another full circle moment, because it comes back to expectation, doesn't it?
Fully.
And the expectation that you're, like I was saying, placing on the other person to then set yourself up for disappointment within yourself, so that then you create the conflict yourself. Even though it is what it is, you create the conflict. And it's like, I just think learning those things is just invaluable, man. And just like,
Completely. I mean, all of this stuff is easier said than done, but you don't learn it unless you actually do it. So, you know, kind of just jump it. It's scary because it's just so easy to kind of just stay in that the stance of I was right or I'm right and that's it. Like I'm not gonna talk to this person because I was right. Blah blah blah. But if you really take a minute and just analyze it and let go and just see what happens within that space.
Yeah. Any final words or thoughts or something you've taken from this conversation?
Forgive yourself. Because I think if you start with yourself and just allow that space within yourself to forgive you first and everything that's happened in your life, because no one knows you better than you. If you can forgive yourself from certain things, then I think that will allow the space for you to start forgiving others. And then the peace that will just open up in your life, in their lives, and then ultimately everyone's lives is just phenomenal.
Words are so important. It's kind of what I'm taking from this. Like, we all seem to be affected by, obviously, particular conversations, particular books, particular pieces of writing. You know what I mean? They're so important to how you are shaped and how you then are shaping yourself for your future present. You know what I mean? Like, you're there. And, like, when you have a picture of yourself in, like, 10, 15, 20 years' time, and you think about all the books and stuff and the things that you've learned and the conversations you've had and the communication that you've done up until that point, it's like you're just building up to become the best person that you could possibly be. So yeah, words are so important. Words are key. Yeah, that's what I'm taking from
and
this.
I think I'd add on top of that just the understanding of yourself and the kind of places and things that you've experienced, and coming back to letting go, I suppose, like accepting that level of acceptance. Like that's been a massive thing for me this year. It's like learning, not even this year, like last couple of years, it's like learning just acceptance, like the power of it. Not like there's anything in particular that I'm like, I had to learn to accept this one thing. I'm just, as a general thing, like just the acceptance of like situations are what they are, conversations are what they are, feelings are what they are. Like it's all temporary really. And it's like, if you can accept that, then you can move on and let go of a lot of stuff.
Absolutely. You don't need to make it harder on yourself because
life is hard already.
Exactly.
You got bills to pay.
Exactly.
We actually haven't got time to be making it harder.
For real, man.
So before we sign out, do you guys want to let people know where they can find you online, where they can check out your podcasts and anything else you want to shout about?
Yeah, man. So my show's on YouTube, Ryan Nile Show, and on all podcasts. Also for the creators, just search that on your podcast. But yeah, Instagram ryan.nile.show, and on Twitter, where you won't find this guy, but you find me at Ryan Nile.
You'll find my podcast on Twitter.
No, cheat code.
So my podcast is Time to Talk with Alex Reads. You can find that on any place that you find your podcasts anywhere. So then you can follow that on Twitter. That's TT Talk Pod on Twitter. On Instagram, you'll find me, my shiny face, at Alex Reads. And just hit me up.
Have a chat.
Have a talk.
Yeah, drop me a message. I'm quite receptive on there.
Dope.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cheers, guys. Appreciate that.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Thank you for this space.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.